Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 56 of the Talk is Cheap show. And it's great to have you along this week. This week's show is brought to you in conjunction with the Flick app. So please download the app and where you can participate in the show. You can interact with us, send us your comments, etc., etc. We look forward to that. I hope you're all healthy, well, and COVID-free. And before I go any further, I just want to introduce, not that he needs any introduction, my co-host, Omi, analyst, special guest, special friend, Mr. Curtis Shaw TV in the house. What are you saying, bro?
Good to be here, bro. Good to be here. Hopefully, you know, one of these shows we can talk about an Arsenal win, but, you know, continues.
All you want for Christmas and all that stuff. Yeah.
Just 3 points. That's it.
But you know what? I've got to ask you, man. Congratulations. I understand you've gone past, is it 20K now, subs?
20K, yeah.
Yeah, man. So that's a big achievement, man. So a digital round of applause for my man Curtis Shaw.
Yeah, man. Big up all the people for the support. Shout out you and Robbie and all the guys at AFTV for all your support as well. It's much appreciated.
No, man. Listen, man. From the day we first started meeting up at the games and talking, and we discussed the concept of this show. I always said to you, man, you had some great opinions and foresights and content. So to see the way the channel's kicking off, man, is really good, man. Well done. Well done. Yeah, no worries. So listen, we've gone into tier 4 now, pretty much the whole of London and the southeast of England. How you been coping? What you been up to?
Do you know what? I haven't even started with the 5K runs and that because the weather's just mad right now. So, but Christmas, it's a busy period, isn't it? So just trying to get ready for that, shopping and, you know, content. There's games coming up left, right and centre. So just it's a busy time. But yeah, this tier 4 business, man. Boris and Arteta, they're messing up everything right now.
I was going to say, man, it's both depressing on and off the pitch at the moment, isn't it? It's just... Yeah. But hey, we're going to get into that, man. We're going to get into that. Moving on then. So let's start cooking, man. Let's get into it. Yeah. So since the last show, we've had a couple of games. The first of which was the Everton away. And as a lot of people were predicting, I mean, we tried to keep it real and say, hopefully we might get something out of the game, but it wasn't to be. A 2-1 loss away to Everton. Well, you tell us, Curtis, what was your thoughts on that game?
I think the disappointing thing about that game, Everton didn't even play that well. They had players missing, Rodriguez, Alan, Luca Digny, the left back. They didn't have to do a lot, you know. 2 hopeful crosses into the box. The first one, Willian doesn't block the cross, doesn't even try to block the cross. Rob Holding loses Calvert-Lewin. It hits Holding on the leg. If you're playing well, that probably hits Rob Holding and goes out for a corner. But when you're playing bad, it hits your leg and goes in the corner. That's how the look goes. And then on the second one, you've got Yerry Mina, who's about, you know, this big. Man's like a 6'5" giant. And we've got Pepe marking him. So, you know, free header at the near post and game over. So disappointing because Everton were not great.
No, they, like you said, they didn't have to be great, which was a disappointing thing from our end. I mean, you've skipped a little bit, but when Pepe got the equaliser through the penalty, I was kind of thinking that might wake us up into some action, you know, but
yeah,
it wasn't to be. And yeah, man, that game was another disappointment.
Yeah.
So we had that one and the 2-1 loss. And on the back of that, then we got the Carabao Cup game a few days after that. We're hoping that we might get some kind of reprieve. The players might put in a performance. We knew it would be a different team. And so it proved. But, you know, I thought the team, what was your thoughts on the team for the Cup game? I mean, I thought it was half decent, although there was a few notable omissions.
Yeah, no, I wasn't happy with it.
Oh, you wasn't?
No, I wasn't happy with it. I know it may sound like constant moaning, but to me, when you're having a bad season in the Premier League, we can't win anything. We can't do anything in the Premier League this season. Top 4's gone. The cup competitions could rescue something from the season, like last year, if you like.
Yeah.
Manchester City left out their 3 best players, in my opinion, Aguero, De Bruyne and Sterling. De Bruyne wasn't even on the bench. Sterling never came on. Aguero come on for 20 minutes. I would have taken that as an opportunity to try and get them. You know, maybe you can get a result. You know, maybe you get a draw. It goes to penalties. Anything can happen. Number one, you bring in Runarsson, who clearly anyone who's seen this guy can see he's not good enough. He's not Arsenal level. He's not Premier League level. He wasn't first choice for the team he played for in France. He's not first choice for Iceland. In fact, he probably wouldn't be first choice for Iceland Supermarket, to be honest, if they had a team. But no,
going hard this week.
No, man, I'm telling you. And then Mustafi, the guy who wants to leave, who rejected a contract, you're playing him, and then you're playing Kolasinac. I mean, I felt sorry for Gabriel because he had another poor game, but he looks to his left and he's got Kolasinac, and to his right is Mustafi. I mean, two jokers either side of you. So, no, the starting lineup I didn't like. I think Arteta should have picked a stronger team than that.
Well, I'm not even gonna play devil's advocate. I actually did feel this.
You are.
No, but you know what? I'm thinking to myself, if I'm the manager, we're in such poor form in the league that, and I'm not saying this to belittle the Carabao Cup in any way, but the league's become such a paramount importance now. We've got some pretty tough games coming up, let's face it, that I think could be excused for picking a, less than, full strength side, because at the end of the day, yes, it was a quarterfinal, it was Man City, but he's got some games ahead of him that he really does need to win. And we've already got a few injuries. And as you saw with Martinelli yesterday as well, things are pretty precarious. So I didn't have too much of a problem with him playing what we might call a slightly weakened side. I guess it's just the way it panned out on the night. So I'm not going to go on too hard for that one, to be honest, because I think we can be a bit guilty of being wise after the event, because the goalkeeper had one of those shockers that I don't think any manager could have legislated.
Laurie, I think every Arsenal fan, we've spoke about it as well. When we've seen him in the Europa League, many of them goals you've said, yo, I think he could have saved that, or he got a hand on it. And it's clear that everyone can see he's not good enough. He's nowhere near good enough. So why would you put him in against one of the best teams in English football, who we knew were going to dominate the game? All right, you can't account for that kind of mistake. I mean, I think me and you, everyone, you might have saved that. It was straight at him, even that powerful. It's a terrible mistake, but I just think, do goalkeepers really need resting? I don't know. He said Leno needed a rest. I think Leno could have played.
I think he could have played, but I think the point I'm trying to make is, had Leno have played, and, and worse comes to worse, Leno picks up an injury, or, I mean, we saw earlier this year against Brighton with the Mope incident, and then he gets injured. And, if that had happened yesterday, we would all have been to a man saying, why did he play Leno in this game? So I guess you could understand to some degree why he played Runarsson. But the problem is that, like you said, Runarsson has not proven up to it. And yesterday he got cruelly exposed. And if you're going to take a positive from that performance yesterday, I guess, of Renascence's anyway, I guess you could say that what we did learn from last night's performance from the goalkeeper is that he's truly not at this level and not ready. So they need to wrap Leno in cotton wool, man, because I'll tell you what, if he gets an injury, then we could be in dire trouble. You know what I mean? Okay. I mean, what about the rest of the team then? I mean, we had Lacazette front. Pepe was back. I mean, it wasn't a weakened team, was it, really?
I mean, any team we pick right now, it feels weak anyway, let's be honest.
Because let's face it, any team we put out are probably going to be inferior to Man City, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
And we had enough, the so-called, of our better players in the team yesterday to put in a performance better than we did. But I think it's one of those where, as I've been saying on this show ad nauseum, it feels like the confidence is so low that you start the game and then we're conceding after 2.5 minutes. And I mean, once that happens, you're already thinking, you're just looking and thinking, wow, how are we going to recover from this? And then we get the goal from Lacazette, which I have to say, I thought was against the run of play. Great goal.
Oh yeah.
Perhaps against the run of play, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, definitely.
And then a few minutes after that, we go and concede again. And from that happened, I was pretty much thinking, what, the game's done. What was your thoughts?
Do you know the crazy thing? a couple of months ago, we were saying, right, the attack is really poor, but at least he's made us more solid at the back. That's completely gone out the window now because the goals we're conceding are absolute schoolboy defending. It's on the verge of embarrassing. I mean, their fourth goal, they're actually fighting each other like, let me score, let me score. And our defence are just standing there looking at them and you're like, come on. Like, I hadn't even settled down in my chair and Jesus was celebrating 1-0 already. I thought there was a couple of good performances. I thought Lacazette played quite well. I thought Martinelli was a positive.
Yeah, Martinelli was definitely a positive.
Martinelli was definitely positive. I thought Willock had a few good moments, although overall was pretty average, but a few good passes and runs, driving runs. It was good to see Balogun and Smith Rowe come on. But apart from that, there is not a lot you can take out of that game. Let's face it, you know, Pep left, as I said, he left his 3 best players out of the team. Probably tried to do his mate a favour and keep him in the job. Although towards the end of the game, I think he thought, you know what, if I hammer him here, maybe I'll have him back at Man City putting the cones out tomorrow morning because he's 3-1 up and he's bringing on Sergio Aguero. And I was thinking, boy, man, this could end up 5 or 6. So it was a dismal performance, you know. Man City.
Let's talk about one of the positives to come out of that game. One of the few positives, and that would have been the performance of Martinelli. We've been waiting to have him back for a long time now. And he came back for the first time. And I have to say, man, that performance whilst he was on the pitch was very encouraging, to say the least. Just what we needed. But I just want to pick your brain on this. At the point when he got injured, I honestly thought that Mikel Arteta would have said to him at the halftime break, look, you know what, that's it now. We need to wrap in cotton wool. We've got some big games coming up. Was you, like myself, somewhat surprised to see him come back out in the second half?
Yeah, no, I was. Where I felt this one was a bit different, because someone said this to me earlier, oh, why didn't he learn with Partey, you know? The thing with this one is it was an impact injury. And you know, sometimes in football you get a kick. Initially you get a lot of pain, and then sometimes it calms down a little bit. So what I would imagine is Martinelli's probably gone in at half-time, iced it. Maybe the pain has gone down a little bit, and he's probably said, I can play. Now, obviously, a manager's then got a decision to make with the advice of the physio and the doctor. But if there's no obvious problem, no major bruising or anything, because what I've heard is when he came back out on the pitch, the bruising swelled up. Obviously, that caused him pain and he couldn't run it off. So I was surprised he came back out, but I'm not necessarily going to blame Arteta for this one. With Partey, that was a muscle injury. He clearly wasn't fit. Sometimes you do get a kick and you feel like you can run it off. So, you know, I think Martinelli wants to play, wants to be on the pitch. If there was no obvious bruising there, then I can understand why he came back out.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. It's just that at the time of the impact, at the time of the injury, when he went down, you could see he was quite forlorn. He was in a lot of, he had his shirt over his face, which is always a bad sign for me. You see, when you see players go down and they're beating the floor and they're indulging in all this histrionics, I tend to think they're not that injured. They're just trying to draw in attention to the foul. But when you see a guy go down and he's prostrate and he's got his shirt over his face, could mean they're in tears or they're in real anguish. It just looked to me like at that point, even if he's was able to get back up and he's hobbling around, I think he should have been subbed at that point, given what's happened with him over the past year, how long we waited for him to come back, and given how important he is going to be to us in coming weeks. So I fully expected the manager to substitute him at half-time. And let's face it, he was on the floor for several minutes.
He was, yeah. It
became apparent that this wasn't no bogus injury or him, you know what I mean, just on the floor, you know, engaging some of the players do play acting and all the rest. So you could see that this was pretty serious. And like I said, the fact that he's been out for so long and how important he is going to be to us in the coming weeks, I would have liked to have seen the manager at halftime take that decision out the players' hands, because we know Martinelli, we know what type of character he is like. He's hella enthusiastic. He wants to play. He wants to score goals. You know what I mean? He wants to impact the team. It's for the manager to protect the guy from himself and say, you know what? yes, we know you'd love to get back on there. Listen, man, it's unfortunate, but come on, you know, we've got games coming up where we're going to need you. And you know what I mean? I just thought I was put this way, I was surprised when
you were surprised he came back up. I think with the Partey one and the David Luiz one, clearly them two were bad. Like, they were wrong. David Luiz one we spoke about the other week. I think maybe Arteta's looked at half-time, 1-1, was still in the game. Martinelli got the assist as well. He's probably had a bit of ice. It's calmed down. He said, I'm all right, just leave me. Sometimes it's difficult for a manager, innit? If there's no obvious problem. You know, it was a kick on the shin. Apparently it's a bruised shin just on the bone. So it is quite painful and it would swell up. So I get your point. You know, really, they probably should have taken him off, but I can kind of understand why maybe he thought, let me just see if he can run it off.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. So as I said earlier, he was one of the few positives to come out of that game. We lose a game comprehensively 4-1 at home, another home defeat.
Yeah.
The game's done now, and all the talk is of the Chelsea game coming up this week and how things are going to pan out over the Christmas period, which is, let's face it, man, it's going to be a difficult Christmas period. Chelsea, not long after that, we got Brighton, a team which we've struggled with over the past, to say the least. I just want to say to you, Curtis, and I want to ask you, where do we go from here? You know what I mean? How do you see him getting out of this? Can he turn it around? Do you think
he has to? You know, do you know how bad it was the other day, Laurie? I'm watching, and I didn't watch all of it. I caught the last bit of Burnley against Wolves, and I was actually having to cheer on Wolves to try and make Burnley drop points so they don't go ahead of us. And I had to say to myself, what is going off with this football club? You know, Burnley have got games in hand on us and relegation scrap. Looking at that Chelsea game, I'd like.
They had a very good win in the week.
They beat West Ham, didn't they? Yeah, and you know, before that they'd had a little wobble, and then you're thinking, oh no, I was hoping West Ham would take points off them. I think this is going to be a very, very difficult game. I don't think we're favourites to win it. You know, we seem to be getting cursed by old players. You know, Walcott comes and scores. Iwobi gets an assist. Giroud's on fire at the moment. They're going to put crosses in. It's going to be dangerous. It's going to be bad. I think if we lose our next two Premier League games, Chelsea and Brighton, I think they will have to get rid of him, even though I know, and I think we all know, they don't want to get rid of him. They want to give him January. But I think if we were to lose to Chelsea and Brighton, they would have to sack him, even if everything they're saying states that they don't, because you've got to get points eventually. We haven't won a game in December. You know, that's...
Well, our last game in the Premier League was actually the game against Man United, and that was on the 1st of November.
Oh, God.
It's shocking, really.
Shocking. And would any other manager survive at any other top club? They would not. There's not a chance they would. No. And this board have got to do something to sort this mess out.
I mean, part of me really does want him to get the wins, not just for the sake of the club, but for himself as well. And turn things around. But I'm just looking at the situation, and I do feel that, listen, I think the guy's doing his best. I think the players are playing for him. By and large, I mean, maybe the odd one is not putting everything in, but then you're always going to get that. But from what I see, I think the players are playing for him. I just think that he's been found out, which is something that me and you spoke about on this show several weeks ago. And literally every decision he's making, even down to some of the smaller type decisions, are just not coming off for him at the moment.
No.
He really is going for a wretched run of form. And you just want something. I actually feel a bit of empathy and a bit of sympathy for the guy. I mean, I have been critical of him in the past, but I'm trying to sort of reach into my inner pause and, you know what I mean, wish him some luck, man, over this Christmas period, because if anyone needs it, man, it's him right now. He's having a rough time.
I agree with you. I have not got anything personal against Mikel Arteta. I think, as you said, I think he's trying his best. He cares about the club. You know, he's a former captain, former player, and it's just not working. I don't think the coaching staff are helping him that much. You know, you got this guy with headphones on during a game. Like, what's he listening to? You know what I mean? What is he listening to? You got Arteta, like you said, every decision, all these decisions, Saliba, Ozil, they're all coming back to bite him. And I just think, I mean, look, I hope he can turn it around. Do I think he will? Probably not. I don't think he's lost the dressing room in the sense of like, are they still putting effort in? I think they're putting effort in, but I don't think they believe in him. I don't think they believe in his methods. And I think when you don't believe in a manager in football, it doesn't tend to work. You know, they don't trust his ideas. Everything he's doing at the moment is not working. So
well, what are his ideas? I mean, like when he first come to the club, we were being told that he was one of these managers that favoured the pressing, the high energy, you know, I mean, high octane stuff, defending from the front and all that. But that seems to have dissipated with the results and the losses and everything else. And now I'm looking at a team and I'm struggling to see what our identity really is. You know what I mean? He's trying to do things on the fly and they're not working. No. I mean, a few weeks ago, he experimented with putting Aubameyang through the middle. That didn't work. Then he's putting back on the left. Fair enough, he did get a goal shortly after that. So presumably when Aubameyang comes back, if he does come back for this Chelsea game, what's he going to do there? Is he going to be out on the left or through the middle? He looks, you know, I mean, and there's several other positions as well that he's toyed with bringing in different players. Hasn't quite worked. You know, is it the players? Some people have suggested that it's not the manager and it's the players that are more at fault. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's both. I've said the whole time, there's no way you can put 100% of the blame at the manager because some of these players are disgraceful. Honestly, they've failed over and over again. And the crazy thing is, Laurie, the crazy thing is, Laurie, we are one of the only football clubs you can fail and be rewarded. You know, you can be poor for 2 or 3 years. You give us 5 good games, they might give you a new contract. And that's the crazy thing. You know, I'm hearing Rob Holding could be getting a new 4-year deal. And El Neni, when he had a few half-decent games, they were talking about new contract. Now look at him. He's back to the guy that we bought at the start who no one could believe why we'd signed him, you know. So I think it's Arteta and the players. My argument has always been, I think a better manager would get more out of this group of players. I'm not saying we should be in the top 4, maybe not even top 6, but we should be in and around it. We should be 7th, 8th, 5 or 6 points off the top 4, not miles away from it already. We've only, you know, we're not even halfway through the season and the league season's done. So we've got to sell some players, sign some new ones. But for me, the manager has to go. He should have gone already, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I think if he did, there couldn't have been too many complaints. But as he said previously, it would appear to all intents and purposes that the club, the hierarchy of the club, do want to keep him. I mean, Edu came out and he was quite vociferous. He was quite forthright, and he was saying back the manager. So you know, he seemed pretty clear about that. But I just wonder. I'm looking at him, and he does look quite bereft of ideas on the touchline. You know, you can see the pain etched on his face. He genuinely wants the team to do well. You can see he's doing his best. He's probably one of those guys, man, that's been kept awake all night by some of the performances. So he's just scratching his head what to do. But then this kind of hints at what we were saying earlier, is that we needed a person taking over this job who had the right level of experience to take on a job like this. I just feel that he's been found wanting. And part of the reason he's been found wanting is that he's lacking in experience. It's all right being coach at a club like Man City, but, you know, let's face it, I would imagine that the vast majority of those decisions were not being taken by him. They would have been taken by Pep. Okay, Pep would have been consulting him, but it's Pep's decisions, and it's also Pep's leadership that's carrying the club through. And it's not often that number 2s make good number 1s. We've seen that consistently throughout football. And I'm just looking at it and I'm seeing where he can turn things around. And I'm struggling, man. And even some of the signings, I mean, Partey looks like he's going to be out for a couple more weeks. Another huge slice of bad luck for the manager. And even someone like Gabriel, who's been one of our shining lights this season, I hate to say it, man, but the last couple of games, he's not played that well. And that's worrying.
He hasn't, but do you know what? I'm not even blaming him. He's a 22-year-old lad coming from France. He hasn't even played that much football in the French league, really. And he's come here, he's been fantastic in a poor defence. And I think now he's just being pulled down by the rubbish that is around him, to be honest. It's very hard to you know, hold a defence together when you look at some of the guys he's playing next to. And this is what I'm saying, Laurie, you know, if the poor players were playing bad and the good players were playing good, all eyes would be on the players. You would say, well, you know, the good ones are still performing, but our good players are actually not playing well at the same time, you know, with the likes of Aubameyang and Pepe and people like that. So, look, I mean, I was looking at Arteta's got 2 years left on his deal. He's on 6 million a season. He's not going to walk. I've seen people saying, oh, Arteta should walk. No manager's going to walk out of a £12 million contract, right? He's going to say, if you want me out, you better write the check, you know, a big check as well. So let's say it costs 8-9 million to get rid of Arteta. You've then got to get rid of 5 or 6 staff members, pay them all off. If you went for a Poch and Allegri, they're going to cost you, what, 10 million a season? 3-year deal, 5 or 6 staff members on top of that, new players in January. It's going to cost a lot of money to sack Mikel Arteta. And we know this board, they're tight. They don't want to spend money. So they're going to stick with Arteta until they think it works. So I don't think they've even got the ambition to sack him.
Okay. Right, okay, I'm going to Mr. Curtis Shaw. I'm going to put you on the spot now.
Go on.
That hypothetical world, right? Edu has rang up Curtis Shaw and said, you know what, Curtis, for these games over the Christmas period, we'd like you to take control of the club. We're putting the responsibility on you. Rescue us, Curtis Shaw. Get us out of this mess. What do you do to try and turn the fortunes around? We need 2 wins against Chelsea and Brighton. What would you do to try and get those results that we need?
I would pray. Oh my God.
On a serious note, I'm asking you, what changes would you make? What would you do to shake the team up? What kind of things do you think might work?
To me, I'll be honest with you. If we've got no Aubameyang, and Partey's definitely out of the Chelsea game. Aubameyang, they haven't announced yet how long. If Aubameyang's fit, then I would probably go with Martinelli, Aubameyang, and maybe Saka as the front 3. Yeah. 2 high-energy press players with Aubameyang around there. You could even play Martinelli central and Aubameyang left. In the middle of midfield is a big problem because we don't seem to have any solution without Thomas Partey in there. Just, you know, you can pick any 2 or 3 out of that midfield. They're all the same. You know, Ceballos, you look at him, you think, you are not going to make it at Real Madrid if this is all you can give. I actually think Ceballos has got talent, but he's just not effective enough in the Premier League. El Nenny's gone back to the usual El Nenny that just won't play a ball forward under any circumstances.
He had reinvented himself and we were calling him El Messi, but
yeah. I'm calling him El Mess now. The man's a mess. You know what I mean? So the midfield is a massive problem. Listen, I would bring Saliba in. I'm sorry, I would. I've seen enough of these defenders now. He cannot be any worse than Mustafi, Rob Holding. This guy was labelled the new Varane. I've never heard Rob Holding labelled the new Varane. You know, he can't be any worse than these lot. Give him a chance. A back 4 of Tierney, Gabriel, Saliba, Ainsley Maitland-Niles. I think that's a half-decent back 4 for now. Do you know what I mean? I thought Ainsley was superb against Richarlison the other day. Yeah. Leno in goal. The midfield is what it is at the moment. There's not a lot you can do with it. Maybe give Smith Rowe a chance in that 10 role. You know, I want to see people given a chance. Yeah. You know, I'm not saying they'll turn things around, but at least it'll freshen the place up. At least these youngsters care about the club and they're going to run themselves into the ground for it. So,
do you think they're good enough, though? I mean, some of the criticisms I've heard recently are that the youngsters are not quite at that level. I mean, okay, they've been performing in the Europa League. But let's be honest, man, the likes of Dundalk, Molde and Rapid Vienna. I mean, I'm not sure if any of those three teams could exist in the Premier League. Certainly Dundee wouldn't. They're probably a League Two side. Molde and Rapid Vienna, I don't think they're Premier League standard.
No,
do you?
they're not.
So yeah, the knock on the young players is that whilst they've got the natural effervescence of youth and they're enthusiastic, and yes, they want to run around and are they good enough technically? Are they good enough mentally? I'm not so sure we've seen that, to be honest. I mean, Eddie's a typical case, an example. You know what I mean? He does lots of running and lots of effort, and yes, he's committed to the cause. But we've seen, particularly in the Premier League, when he's had chances in front of goal.
You don't need to say nothing, mate. I know exactly what you're thinking.
I mean, listen, man, we don't want to go in too hard on the young guys, but I think it's fair to say that none of them really have shown, really, have they?
No.
I mean, they've been performing decently in the Europa League, but when they've been stepped up, they've been found wanting. And when you compare that, I mean, you saw Phil Foden yesterday, man. Okay, been around a bit longer. He's one of City's young guys. Yeah. And we can go right through the Premier League. You look at some of the youngsters. I mean, look at Ben Godfrey the other day. Everton, he came from Norwich, a young guy. How he performed against us. Yeah, we haven't really had that from our youngsters, not on a consistent basis, anyway.
No, I think there's two issues, Laurie. I think number one, as you said, are they good enough? And I think number two, I don't think their development has been handled properly. I look at players like Nelson, Willock. I think there is talent there. There's no doubt about that. But they're very naive. They've come out of under-23 football where they've probably been superstars at that level. It's very hard to come out of the under-23s to the first team in the Premier League. And I think sometimes players, you've got to get them out on loan and get them football to develop them. I look at Eddie and he went to Leeds. It wasn't a good loan. Nelson's loan at Hoffenheim didn't go well. Willock's never been on loan. Smith Rowe had a good loan at Huddersfield. But they haven't played as much as maybe they should have. They're in and out. They play Europa League. Not one of them has really stepped up at this point. So
that's a good point you make, actually, because if we look at Chelsea, for example, Tammy Abraham, he was out on loan. He's been at places like Villa. He did very well at Villa. Come back and he's playing in a team that's playing pretty well. Now, I always say that if you're going to introduce young players and they're coming into a team that is performing, it's far easier for you to assimilate them in a team that's playing well, rather than if they come into a team that's not playing well, like we are at the moment, then it's a lot harder. So maybe I'm being a little unfair, but I just don't think the youngsters at the moment have been able to bridge that gap.
No.
Okay, so let's talk about, so you spoke about some of the people you'd like to see come in for that Chelsea game. How would you approach it in terms of tactics, formation? Because I think it's fair to say that Chelsea, they're a very good team away from home. And I would imagine that they're going to set up and invite us to attack them. So they're going to play a counter-attacking style, and they do have some dangerous players on the break. So how would you combat that?
Look, we're going to have to make life difficult for Giroud. You can't. We're going to have to close down their wingers as well. We can't just let them swing crosses in because we're not great in the air.
You think Giroud what though?
I think he probably would.
Attacking style, which I fully expect them to do. Then the popular consensus would be that Tammy Abraham will probably start with, because he's a bit quicker through the middle. And maybe. I think Giroud will probably come on a bit later on in the game.
Come on. Yeah, I know he's been rotating those two. I just thought maybe with him being ex-Arsenal, he's probably thinking he'll be fired up for it. But as you said,
he'll definitely figure it.
He'll definitely figure at some stage. But Tammy's a little more mobile than Giroud, so maybe he'll go with that. Where I think you can get Chelsea is, I look at Zuma. I remember Aubameyang ripped him to shreds in that FA Cup final. Thiago Silva, as good as he has been, and he's been better than I expected. He is still 36. You've got to turn him. You've got to get him running and moving around. So I think the best form of defence is almost attack. I'm not saying we can go all out against them because we haven't got the team to do that. But I think you've got to try and hurt Chelsea when you get an opportunity. They did lose 2 games previous to that West Ham game. So You know, and we've got a good record at home against Chelsea, and we beat this Chelsea team in the FA Cup final, you know, albeit we was in much better form. So I think Arteta's got to loosen the shackles a little bit. A draw is no good, really. We need to get a win. So I think we've got to try and hurt them at the back.
So when you say hurt them at the back, presumably you want the wing backs to get further up the pitch.
At the right time, I mean, it's going to be interesting who's available, because obviously Martinelli's come off injured. Is he going to be available? Aubameyang, we don't know if he's fit. If those two are not available, you know, it doesn't look as potent a front three. You may be looking Saka, Lacazette and Pepe possibly, which isn't too bad on paper, but hasn't been as effective. But, you know, Lacazette just scored. And I have to say, I thought Lacazette took that goal really well the other day. And I think he actually put in a good performance. So I think Lacazette's got every right to start through the middle. I don't want to see Eddie start this game against Thiago Silva.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. So I think it could be a bit of a tactical chess match then, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Because like I said, I don't expect Chelsea to come and be expansive. I think they're going to approach the game and they're going to look at some of our previous failings where we've been caught on the counter. And Chelsea are very lively, energetic, counter-attacking. Yeah. I've seen them play away from home a few times this season. They've impressed me. Yeah. I think that's what they will do. I think it's up to us to try and break them down. Now, we've definitely got a problem with creating chances. You spoke about Ceballos. He's been kind of used in that role. Lacazette's been used in that role. How do you see us addressing the lack of creativity? You've got to break down a Chelsea team that are quite solid defensively. I mean, I've been quite impressed with their defence. You know, Thiago's come in and he's done, like you said, a lot better than a lot of us expected. Zuma's stepped up. He's playing well. How do you think we can, you know what I mean, get round the back of them, as it were?
It's difficult, you know. I would like to see Smith Rowe given a go. I know sometimes it's easy to just say, you know, put a young player in, but he went on loan. Apparently he was one of Huddersfield's best players. They had a difficult season. You know, Arteta was waxing lyrical about him at the start of the season, and then he's hardly played him. I just think, just do something a little bit different, you know. And I saw Smith Rowe play a little through ball to Lacazette in that game against Manchester City. It doesn't look anything special on the eye. It's a 10-yard pass, but we do not play those kind of passes anymore, that little slide through ball. That was like something that Mesut Ozil used to do a lot. So I would give Smith Rowe a chance. Honestly, I would throw him in. I think, you know, sticking with these players, these Willians, Mustafis, Kolasinac, they're not doing anything. They've been part of the failure. Why not mix it up and freshen it up a bit, man?
Yeah. I mean, he's at the stage now where, like you said, he should really gamble because, you know, the alternatives have not proved productive.
Yeah.
So the only problem I've got with that is that hitherto, Mikel Arteta has not seemed in the least bit innovative in that way.
No.
He seems quite rigid as a manager. So will he gamble and will he play someone like Smith Rowe in that position in a game as big as this? I'm not so sure if he will, to be honest.
No, I don't think he will. You know, I would probably do it. He'll pick the usual suspects, man. You'll see the Willian, you'll see the El Neni. You know, Xhaka, I believe, is back from suspension, so more bad news. You know, but
let's talk about Willian. I mean,
here we go.
Myself included, will remember.
I can't hear you, Laurie. We're having a few technical difficulties.
Some of us will remember a time not too long ago when some people in the AFTV clan, a certain Mr. Curtis Shaw, was welcoming Willian to the club with open arms and saying this could be a very astute signing, was I think the phrase he used at the time. What do you make of Willian so far? I mean, okay, listen, you know what? He'll probably be playing this week, let's face it. And he'll be playing against his former club, and he'll be extra motivated. Do you think we can get a tune out of him for this game? And what do you think has been the problem with Willian to date?
Look, let me just say, in defence of what you were saying, when we signed Willian, I felt that in a window where clearly we weren't going to spend much money, I thought Willian, as a squad player on a free, could be quite an astute signing when you think he just had his best season in terms of stats, 9 goals and 7 assists. I always say you don't become a bad player overnight. My problem with that deal, though, what I didn't agree with was giving him a 3-year contract to a 32-year-old. I think if you were signing him for 1 year with a 1-year option, it would have been an all right signing. I can't understand why he's been so bad. I mean, maybe he doesn't care as much. You know, he doesn't seem as motivated to me in an Arsenal shirt. I think sometimes when you're at the back end of your career and a team's kind of failing and the demand at Arsenal to win is not as great as that at Chelsea, let's be honest. Chelsea have been winning a lot of trophies over the past decade. He's probably chilling a little bit. He's probably thinking, you know what, I'm at the back end of my career, man. These lot are all over the place. He's come out and sort of questioned Arteta a little bit. You've also had this rumour that him and David Luiz want the manager out. And, you know, I kind of think the environment hasn't helped him. I think if we were free-flowing, scoring goals and Willian was a part of it, I don't think we would be highlighting that signing. He would just be a part of the squad. He would probably have chipped in with a few decent performances. But because Arteta has played him so much and so often, it's kind of highlighted, like, why do you keep playing this guy? You know, he's picking him every week. So at this moment, it's been an absolute disaster. And the fact he's got a 3-year deal, is going to be near enough impossible to get him off the book. So it's been a shocker, I have to admit. It's been a really bad one.
Yeah. I must say, even I mean, I had my reservations about Willian, to be honest, and they were documented on the show.
Yeah.
And we used to call him Mr. 1 in 7, but
we're getting 1 in 12, I think.
We're up to 14 now, and he still hasn't delivered.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? No goals, 1 assist, or something like that.
The Fulham game, I think he got 1 assist first game, and then he just disappeared.
I mean, the only thing I can say in his defence is that maybe he's been deployed in a role at Arsenal that doesn't quite suit his style of game. Or alternatively, it could be a thing that, you know, like you alluded to earlier, him not playing with the kind of players he was playing with at Chelsea. Now he's been found out a little bit. Now we're looking towards him. Whereas at Chelsea, he was, you know, a cog in the wheel, and it was going well for him. So there was less, you know what I mean, spotlight on him.
Yeah.
But either way, it's not worked out. Same for Pepe. It's not working out for him. What's your thoughts on Pepe at the moment?
I'm worried about Pepe. The Pepe one worries me a lot more than Willian because, you know, we paid 72 million for him. You can't afford to get that wrong, especially at a club like Arsenal. You know, when Man U buy Lukaku 70 million, they feel it don't work, they sell him, go again, buy someone else. We don't do that. You know, if we was to sell Pepe now, what would you get for him? Half of what you paid for him if you're lucky. You know, somehow we've got to get more out of him, and he's got to get more out of himself. I mean, Ben Godfrey at Everton, that was a centre-back playing at left-back. I thought to myself, Pepe's going to put this guy to work today. You know, he's out of position. Godfrey wrapped him up in that game. I know Pepe scored a penalty, which was, you know, a pressure penalty, but he did nothing in that game. In fact, he had a shot that I think went out of Goodison and bounced in Anfield. It was so far over the bar. So, you know,
I've got to keep it consistent, man, because I've been cheerleading Pepe. I came up with free Pepe not so long ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
The other day, Everton, like you said, man, he was up against Ben Godfrey. Listen, Ben Godfrey is a good young talent, but you would have expected Pepe to show in that game, man. And what disappointed me about Pepe, not just in the Everton game, but in games previous, is that he doesn't seem to have that hunger to take players on.
No.
He seems to be far too readily wanting to pass the ball back and give the ball rather than take his man on, which has been disappointing. Because he does have the ability. I'm convinced he has the ability. Again, he's another one that's clearly suffering from a lack of confidence and being affected by the team's overall poor play. But I think we do have a right to expect more, man. So he does need to step up. Hopefully he'll step up this weekend if he gets a chance. Because you know, I'm not so sure if he makes it in the first team, if I'm being honest.
No, it'll be Willian, I reckon.
Yeah, so And, you know, that's a poor indictment of the side, isn't it?
Exactly.
So, but okay, to bring things around then, do you think we can get a result this weekend, man? And do you think, I mean, we're going to talk about the Brighton game in our following show, so I don't want to look too far ahead. We've got to really concentrate on the game ahead of us rather than thinking into next week. So do you think that the players and the manager can get a result this weekend, Boxing Day?
It's not likely, I got to be honest. I hate as a fan not being positive about it, but I have to be real about it. The way they're playing, a lot will depend on if Aubameyang's fit as well. We need Aubameyang back. But if he's not back, I think it could be a long Boxing Day. All I'll say, make sure you enjoy your Christmas Day, because Boxing Day could be brutal.
It could be, right? It could be. It's just kind of in keeping with this whole mood in the country at the moment, isn't it? I mean, Arsenal kind of personified that a lot. And it's interesting as well that, I mean, I think Mikel Arteta was probably the first high-profile person in football to catch COVID, wasn't he? Yeah. And look, here we are. So I do have a degree of sympathy for the guy, although he has made some pretty bad mistakes in the previous month. I'm just hoping against hope that his luck starts to change and we start picking up a few results, man. If just for him, you know, not for the club, just for him, because he looks a guy on the touchline and it just looks forlorn. It's sad. I actually feel a bit of sympathy for him, but yeah, man. So you don't see us getting anything out of this game, is that what you're saying? Give me a prediction.
Oh man, it's painful to even say. I think we're going to lose. I think we're going to lose. There's no evidence for me to say we're going to. I just can't see it. Chelsea are a tough team to beat. They're a better team than they were last year. If Aubameyang's not playing, I mean, oh dear. I think, what can I say? I think I'll go 2-1 defeat.
Wow. It's not often you say that, and I know
I really don't. It's painful to say that.
I can see the pain.
Do you know what I mean?
You've gone for a defeat, so it's incumbent upon me to be positive, and I'm going to go for a win. Maybe we might get off Eddie's backside or something like that. Eddie, but you know what I mean? We need a bit of luck from somewhere, man, and I think the football gods are going to circle around the Emirates at Boxing Day, and finally we're going to get something to cheer. So, yeah, man, I'm going for a 2-1 win. I think Chelsea will score, but I think somehow we'll manage to get 2 goals, and we'll all be hooping and hollering, if only briefly, for some positivity. So, yeah, man. But listen, man, we're coming to the end of the show. Thanks very much for coming on and giving us your honest and forthright opinions, as you always do. I appreciate that very much. Thanks to all the people out there who are watching and supporting the show. Don't forget to download the Flick app where you can participate in the show, be interactive with us. We like that. Thanks for all your comments. Keep watching, keep supporting, and we see you guys next week.
It's Robbie here from AFTV. Don't forget to check out AFTV on Flick for all the latest transfer rumours, for all the information on Arsenal, for all the information on AFTV. You can check me there for Q&As on a regular basis. The link is in the description. It is free to download. Download it right now.